Hey there, hope you're doing well. In this podcast, we're going to take a look at one of Snowpal's API, the conversation API, and we're going to talk about some of the endpoints, some of the features it supports, and why it would make your life much easier if you actually integrated the API rather than re-implemented your own conversation functionality. If you were actually building something like that for your web or mobile applications, for instance. So without further ado, let me share my screen. Okay, so the conversation API, you can go check out the Postman collection by going to conversation-api.snowpal.com. This actually is the simplest of the APIs we offer, simplest meaning the smallest one. It's got like 30 endpoints, something around there, maybe 27, 28, give or take. And the idea behind this is if you're implementing conversations, imagine if you're doing something like LinkedIn messaging. And you have to build the user interface and the APIs. It's always easier to do lesser than what you have to. And I reckon you're not trying to, your unique selling proposition is not conversations unless you're building a full-blown conversations app like Slack, which I doubt a lot of us are doing. The idea is you building a product and application, be it on the web or mobile or a microservice that needs to have a conversation as a feature. So you have some basic support for conversations, and if once you get past those initial conversations, you can probably go use something like Slack that is built to solving that problem singularly in the best possible manner, or Teams, for instance. You can go to snowpal.com to check this out, but because it's a production app, and as you can imagine, I cannot share my production data. So I'm just going to go to something that's running locally. It's the exact same thing. It's just a local version of the production application. If you go to conversations, and again, this is dev data, so just take the data with a grain of salt. It has the type of features that you expect a conversation feature to have essentially. You can go find people. Let's say I'm going to pick Parag 2. I can go have a private conversation. I can say hello. Or I can have a group conversation with more than one person. I can pick again Parag. I can pick Parag 3. I can say go. I can type hello there. Just an example. So group conversations, private conversations, you can archive a conversation and we get a new message sent to you by one of those users. The conversation is going to pop up. You can leave, which means the messages, the conversation up until that point would be preserved, but you choose to leave that group, that conversation, or you can just delete the conversation. Again, with single one-on-one conversations, we support read receipts, etc. Right? So you get the idea. Basic conversation functionality that you want to integrate into your application. That's what this, let's actually draw this out as we go. So it's easier to remember. Conversation API. What are some of the features we just discussed? Private conversation. And then you have a group conversation. A group conversation has, like we saw, you can archive it. You can leave a group conversation or you can delete. So there's nothing to leave a one-on-one conversation. So what we support here are read receipts. And there's more to it, but essentially that's what it is. And when you go back and try to send a message to an existing to a member who you've already had a conversation with, it's going to pull up that conversation. Similarly, if you're going to send a message to a group of people, to a group that you've already had a conversation, you didn't leave that group, then you can again, we're going to pull up that conversation and you can continue to send messages. The basics of conversation. That's what our endpoints support. Get 100, and then you have things like get 100 conversations count, get user conversations, add private or group conversation, get conversations for given usernames, send messages to an existing conversation, get conversation by ID, deleting a conversation, leaving and archiving, and then a few other standard endpoints to register users and create profiles and whatnot. That's basically it as far as conversations is concerned. But the idea is when you're implementing, again, we have conversation support on both our web app and our mobile apps. And all that when we had to implement the user interfaces, it took us literally almost no time. Certainly not for the mobile implementation, because we had done the web, we had the APIs in place, and we just had to consume those endpoints and just add a few screens and just be done with it. It was a very seamless process. If but for the first time when we did not have the APIs or the endpoints, there was a fair bit of work, quite a bit of work that you need to go even for an API that's not the biggest of our APIs, because you need to worry about the combinations, the permutations, the combinations, the nuances, the edge cases, and you have to run the gamut essentially, and then how you take functionality and make it smaller and simpler, like put that into 9 endpoints, takes a bit of skill, if you know what I mean. Because our first version of this probably had more endpoints, and then we could actually make it more optimal. The idea is not to actually reduce the number of endpoints so one of them does too many things and it becomes overloaded. Not the point, not the idea. At the same time, we do not want to have a proliferation of endpoints because it makes it difficult to consume them as well. Before I go end this one, I'm going to say that you can go to developers.snowpal.com to check out documentation about this and other APIs. That's one place to go. If you're a product owner, part of the product team, you might enjoy this as a starting point. If you're a developer, you might enjoy Postman as a starting point. And once you decide that this is the way you want to go, you can go to AWS Marketplace, look for this particular API. After a couple of clicks, within 2 minutes, you will actually be signed up. You can, you'll get an API key and a product code by email, and you can start hitting these endpoints. Choose a plan either by a subscription, monthly, annual, or by request. Some of our customers actually, prefer to have different pricing models. They like, hey, you know what? Can you create a private offer for us, or have us, provision your API, conversation API in our infrastructure on Azure, Google Cloud, or AWS? We are like, yep, sure, that's totally possible. We do that. Even other customers are like, hey, we love the functionality, but we want to be able to have complete control over it, so we want to purchase a license so it becomes part of our DevOps and platform engineering teams, so you have nothing to do with it once we purchase a license, other than them purchasing upgrade licenses and waiting for periodic drops for enhancements, bug fixes, and features. That's super doable, right? That's what the bigger you are as a client, the more that's where we've seen our larger clients wanting to be, which is essentially trying to get purchase the licenses and manage it themselves, which is totally fine because they have their own DevOps and platform engineering teams, so they have the ability to do that. The mid-size and smaller organizations prefer one of the other licensing options. And if you're a startup or a solopreneur, again, within the first 15 minutes, you can hit the ground running and actually make this part of your product. Imagine how cool that is. You don't have to worry about staffing, hiring, and supporting and training a back-end team. And you can eliminate or mitigate all of those risks and cost and the spend by paying per request or by subscription. So it's your choice. Whatever you prefer, just go with it. And let us know if you have any questions. We also actually have professional services products on AWS Marketplace that you can actually go look up and purchase that if you want our team to help you out with onboarding. But it's pretty self-serve as well, so your dev team can do it themselves. It's your choice. With that, I'm just going to end this recording. Thanks. Bye bye.